Quinnen Williams drama, injuries all over the place, and a historically inept offense. We've got a lot to get into. Roll it.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
What's poppin', everybody? My name is Paul Esden Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, and also available in the audio-only forms wherever you find your podcast. And let's bring on another new guest. We've been popping the new guests this week, and let's do it. Jake Brown, he's a producer for all these New York Post sports podcasts, and he joins us right now on the Gosh Darn Show. Jake, gosh darn Brown, baby, what is happening?
What is the key to the energy at 7:30? Like, is it a shot of espresso in your coffee? Like, what is the key to wake up?
Well, I've never had a sip of coffee in my life, so I'm not sure what that looks like. And that's what everyone says. That exact reaction you just had, they're like, what? I assume you're like addicted to coffee or have some sort of coffee thing. I don't know. It's in the fiber of my foundation. It is built in the house in which I was placed, I suppose. I have no friggin' clue, but we try to bring it. We try to bring it every morning, so try to give you a little bit. Hopefully this can provide you some juice, perhaps.
It is, and I wore my rise and grind shirt to try to get me up
Nice.
and try to get me the energy like you, because I have to do my show in a few hours. But 7:30 is a little bit earlier than what we record at 10 a.m. Me and Brian Costello. So I'm ready though. That got me fired up. Let's do this.
Well, I love it. The gang's all there, all here, podcast, which is phenomenal. So you guys should check that out as well. Let's talk about the latest drama first. Yesterday, it all blows up. So Troy Aikman, during the Monday Night Football broadcast, in case you guys missed it, he has a spiel during the game where he says that Quinnen Williams said that he was like the most expensive, the highest paid decoy, and he wants more opportunities to get one-on-one. And Troy Aikman and Joe Buck get unparalleled access as they're heading up into these games, get to talk to players and coaches all over the place, and that's supposed to dump all the dirty secrets on the table so they could tell and have a better broadcast on Monday. All of a sudden, Quinnen Williams at the end of his presser yesterday goes, excusez-moi, I didn't say beep. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. So I'm curious, Jake, what's your take on all this? Is Troy Aikman just a dirty liar, or what's happening here? Was something misinterpreted? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, more times than not, I wouldn't trust Troy Aikman. I mean, he's not the most trustworthy source. So I'm going to side with Quinnen here. Maybe he misheard him. He heard something else. They do have those, like you said, the meetings leading up to the game. I don't know if it was then or he made it sound like it was on the field before the game. But, Quinnen doesn't seem to be too fond of him. And I'm going to side here with Quinnen Williams because, I mean, why would he even say that? I mean, it's a strange thing to even say. So either Aikman made it up or he heard words differently. He is getting older. One guy's older. Always trust the younger guy. They usually have a little bit better of a memory than the older Troy Aikman, who's taken a lot of hits on the head on the football field. So I'm going to side with Q here.
So I guess I picked the right guy. You over Brian Costello then, as the younger man.
No, he remembers more than me because he told me it's interesting. In college, we've all. I mean, I have. You smoked weed. You've smoked a blunt. We smoked. Kaz has never smoked. This is he told me. I believe it because he remembers like a play from like 2012 in week 7. I'm like, I don't remember that game. So he remembers every game, every play. So I trust that he doesn't. So in that case, no. But in Troy Aikman's case, Kaz hasn't got hit to that. He's the coach. He's coaching his kids' softball and football teams. So he's fine up in the head. Troy Aikman, not so much.
Fair enough. So on this Quinnen Williams thing, though, it does highlight an interesting thing. He has half a sack, and we're halfway through the NFL season as a whole. Now, a lot of the other players are eating. Bryce Huff, Jermaine Johnson. A lot of these guys are. Is that enough for you, or is it still somewhat inexcusable that Quinnen only has this level of sack production this way into the season after getting paid the highest contract in New York Jets history?
I think it's two sides of it. I think he's got to have more sacks, but sacks are a little bit overrated in today's game. I think he's getting doubled every week. I mean, you can't deny how much pressure, offensive lines are putting on Quinnen Williams. So I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But listen, I'd like to see him bring the quarterback down. When you're getting paid that level of money, you want to see it happen at least a handful of times. I mean, we are past the halfway point of the season. You want to see it. But again, I think teams are playing differently against him. I also think the Jets have so many different pass rushers. If they could have anyone in the defensive line room play quarterback, they'd be great. I mean, if they could play any other position, they'd be in good shape. But they just have so many guys out there. You got guys shifting in and out. So I'll cut them some slack. But I'd love to see, and I think it's going to happen against the Raiders this week. I think we finally see a big time Quinnen Williams sack that maybe forces a fumble.
Juicy. That would be phenomenal for Quinnen Williams. I think another thing here, because when we being the general Aaron Rodgers, the New York Jets having Aaron Rodgers heading into the season, having more leads and having these pass rushers just go buck wild, that obviously has not happened with the Jets having these leads. I think that's another factor that could have certainly greased the wheels here, but I guess we'll see what happens for the Raiders game. Speaking of that horrible, inept offense, Jake Brown, here's what I need. I need you to just solve the offense. How do we solve it? Give me the secret.
I mean, the one quick solve that is just mind-blowing they haven't done is bench Zach Wilson. I mean,
okay.
I know you don't want to rattle his confidence I don't know how it's not by now. I mean, it seems like every fan is calling for his head. Everyone, reporters, Connor Hughes, everyone's saying bench him. That's the quick fix. And for the people who say, oh, these guys, Trevor Siemian's not better, Boyle's not better, let's see it. Because every other quarterback that's come in has been better, from Flacco to Josh Johnson to even Chris Streveler moved the ball down the field in the brief time that he came in. Every other quarterback, Mike White comes in, tears it up. And again, it's against the Bears, bad conditions. I get it. But he still was moving the ball with the offense all the time he played until he got hurt. So I've seen every other quarterback be able to make the simple plays that Zach Wilson hasn't. Maybe it's on Hackett, which I agree. Hackett's been a terrible play caller. Death taxes and first down runs. I mean, it's been unbelievable. I was losing my mind watching back. I went to the game Monday night, wish I stayed home. And I watching back the condensed game. I'm like, oh my God, this play calling, what is going on? But your bad quarterback play makes bad play calling look even more atrocious. So, and I get guys got to catch balls. I know Alan Lazard, 44 years, $44 million. You got to catch a ball. You can't commit dumb penalty after dumb penalty. But Zach, there's guys open and he can't find them. So I'm not saying Simeon or Boyle are coming in and saving the Jets, but I can guarantee you they're going to have a little bit more success than 8 touchdowns in 8 games, and most of those coming from Breece Hall.
Well, fair enough. Well, Jake, again, Jake Ashton Brown here, Gangs All Here podcast, joining us for the first time here on Boy Green Daily. This is our first time doing this little shish kebab here, so I'm not sure where you stand in this. So let me just throw it out there. Are you a conspiracy theory guy, or do you dabble in other waters?
I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to think Joe Douglas is making the decision after Robert Saleh saying, I plead the fifth. I mean, I know he's going to say no. But this was 15 minutes after he talked to the media. Now, maybe his answers to my co-host Kaz are different than when he goes on Michael Kay show. I think they might pay him to go on that show. I don't know, the weekly spot. Usually they get paid. So I assume the paid interview, he's giving the juicier answers than to the beat writers. But this Douglas is the one who battled for Zach. He brought him back. He could have said no. And Saleh's unfortunately had to defend him at every moment. And he's the kind of coach who's not going to rip him. I wish he would say he stunk this week. He's got to be better. He's kind of like Kaz will say, Jets fans are twisting themselves into a pretzel to believe that Zach Wilson is a guy. And he's right. And Robert Saleh is twisting himself in a pretzel with these answers. I mean, he's finding new ways to defend him every week and giving new explanations. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy. But
Okay.
if you want to call it conspiracy theory, I do buy into one that Joe Douglas is saying, keep playing Zach, don't go to Simeon or Boyle.
And if you believe that mandate and what you said, because that's what a lot of people speculate, with Robert Sala going, habita, oh boy, people have went, Woody? Joe Douglas? Is someone else pulling the strings here? And if that is the case, that you believe there is some, ulterior mandate thing happening here, is that for the rest of the season? Is it if it gets so bad, they'll cut the string and say, okay, fine, now put in Simeon or something? Because the Jets are still, despite all the, oh God, the meteor's about to crash into the earth and kill everyone, they're 4-4. They're right in the thick of everything. They kind of control their own destiny here with a couple of these Bills, Dolphins games, plus some of the Texans. They play a lot of these teams that are quote unquote either tied or in front of them. So you still have everything in front of themselves at 4-4, but are they not going to be able to make one of these quarterback changes till it's too late, or not at all? Is Zach Wilson the guy with the rest of the way?
Yeah, and also on the conspiracy theorist front, I've heard the talks of JetBlue and Zach Wilson's uncle or whoever runs JetBlue.
Yeah.
Is he paying him? Is there the connection with JetBlue and Woody Johnson? So who knows at this point? Does Zach Wilson have pictures of Joe Douglas in a Speedo? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there's something awry. It's not going to be the rest of the season because you cannot watch this every week. I'd be shocked. You have backup quarterback for a reason, and it must show you that maybe Boyle looks terrible in practice. Maybe Trevor Siemian looks terrible. Oh, they're not with the ones. I don't want to hear that. Josh Dobbs didn't know his teammates' names and lit up the scoreboard. So I don't want to hear they're not ready or they haven't had time with the ones. This is the NFL, not amateur hour. So I could see one of those guys coming in and doing fine. I don't think it'll be the rest of the year. They're in it, but it's because of the defense. Like the Giant win is just ridiculous still that they won that game.
Yeah.
The Eagle game, their defense carries them with the big interception in the final minutes. The Broncos game was as ugly as ever. The Chiefs game bought him time in a loss because it was a moral victory and he played well. That was his real, Zach Strong game, but time's running out here. We thought this schedule looks easy. This schedule all of a sudden looks really hard. Raiders aren't a cakewalk with Antonio Pierce. Bills and Dolphins are tough. The Falcons, they're a weird team, but if they use Bijan Robinson, they could be a little bit better. It's some awful coaching. The Texans are in the race. The Dolphins are in the race. The Commanders aren't a cakewalk to me. The Browns look like a cakewalk, and their defense is elite. That game is very difficult. And then the Patriots are the Patriots. The Jets can't beat them. So this schedule, I think, to me is a lot more difficult than it looked about 5 or 6 weeks ago. They have to make the change. I think the leash got to be short this week. I think this is I hate to keep saying, I say in my show, must win, but I don't think they're beating the way they're playing the Bills or Dolphins. I don't know if they're going to win either. Maybe they win Black Friday, but I think the leash got to be short here, where if Zach has a god awful first half and he plays like last week, you got to pull the string and put in Boyle or whoever's active in the second half.
Yeah, we'll see. Salah on it would be Tuesday because the game was on Monday. So on Tuesday, he said that he is not at this time considering bringing Trevor Siemian up. For people that don't know, Siemian's on the practice squad. Tim Boyle is technically the backup quarterback. But earlier in the year, there was I think it was a Connor Hughes question where he asked Salah, "Hey, was Zach Wilson struggling early in the year? Would you consider giving QB1 reps to Tim Boyle in practice?" And he almost laughed off the question. He scoffed like, absolutely not. Why would I do that? And it's like, it's either that's an unbelievable love for Zach Wilson or Tim Boyle is so terrible he wouldn't even consider it, which is probably an onus on the Jets that they wouldn't go after a Josh Dobbs at the deadline, 6th-round pick, even if you had to, quote-unquote, outbid the Vikings for a 5th. I mean, what are we talking about here at the game's most important position if he could be your long-term backup anyway? That did seem a little bit bizarre there from that perspective.
Yeah, I think they feel more worried about them knowing the system than being a good player. Like Boyle was brought in here because Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett, the Packers connection. They went very much with the connection. Siemian had some kind of connection. Josh Dobbs had no connection and lit up the scoreboard and was learning the cadence on the sideline. This is the NFL. These players should be able to step in and have success. And it's a statement to the coaching staff having these guys A, not prepared, and B, they're not instilling the confidence in them if they're laughing off them even getting a chance to play. Yeah. So I think the Jets fumbled the bag with the quarterback position thinking, all right, we got Rodgers and Zach, we'll be fine. You're not fine with Zach. Year 3, this is the longest leash I'd have to go in the history books I've ever seen on a guy who gets drafted in its third year, who's been inept for 3 years straight, and it's been unwatchable, offensive, very offensive to watch football. So how long is this leash? I mean, time's got to run out at some point. You got to bite the bullet and say, hey, we missed out on the second pick. We spent a lot of money to get him. And, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I mean, these are adults here making millions of dollars. Zach Wilson will be fine. He's lived a very nice, comfortable life. He's got a crazy, nice mom. He's got a girlfriend. He's set for life, Zach Wilson. And I get it. There's a thing. These are players, his confidence shot. He's a human being, and I respect that. Like, you have emotions. You feel bad for the guy. But time's up, kid. It's now or never. 3 years, you've gotten the longest leash. It's time for you to not even ball out, but to have some semblance of confidence. I think this locker room, I'm not going to say they hate him, but I think it's going to turn on him pretty quickly. I mean, Connor said the other day how it was the quickest the players got out of the locker room. And I think that's a statement. These guys don't want to be in the same room together. And when Mike White is in the room, when he was here, they were giving him shirts with his name on it. And he was, they were all over him, supporting him. So they've been very supportive of the other guys because they could score. It's time for him to score here. Enough's enough. It's hard to watch. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to report about. I'm getting sick and tired of watching a team that just cannot score points. It's not hard to do.
Well, Sunday Night Football, New York Jets. What a great intro. Las Vegas Raiders, New York Jets, Week 10 Sunday Night Football. So what do you make of this game that's coming up? Because you have Antonio Pierce. There's a new vibe, a new energy. You're smoking victory cigars after beating the New York Giants, for Pete's sake. The Jets have to travel over there, and they're coming off this embarrassment of embarrassments. The Raiders are coming off perhaps their greatest win of the season. So we kind of have some, altering dichotomies there before they head up in primetime. What do you make of this?
Yeah, the Raiders are a talented bunch that was underachieving, that was not getting the quarterback play they thought out of the guy they paid in Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're playing hard for Antonio Pierce. They love this guy, and it's hard not to. I absolutely loved, and it's interesting that all teams don't do this, and I know it packs the sideline, but having the practice squad players on the field,
cool move.
Have Trevor Siemian out there. Have Trevor Siemian stand on the sidelines and watch how bad Zach is up close and personal. Maybe that'll fire him up. That is a move that all teams should do, and this is a brand new coach. I always love that he's always sipping on like a cup of coffee and like a styrofoam cup too.
Yeah.
I don't know, or whatever he's drinking. I love it. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid, the Antonio Pierce Kool-Aid. A great player here in New York. So I think they have something to prove there, and this is a lot tougher of a game. I'm kind of glad I did not. Early in the year, I was like, oh, I got to do this Vegas trip. Our buddy Jake is there doing a whole thing.
Circa.
So
yeah.
That's Circa. I was like, I got to do this. I mean, once Rogers went down and you see the prices and like, hey, Post, you want to expense this trip? No? Okay. Well, I don't know. My wallet's a little thin these days. So it's going to be a difficult game to watch. It's going to be ugly. I think we're going to see a lot of sacks on both sides. Crosby's going to get after Zach Wilson. I mean, the Chargers had 8 sacks. The Jets' line is also now going to be without Billy Turner, most likely. So, I mean, another injury to this offensive line. You can't make it up at this point. How many injuries this O-line has had? I mean, Nick Mangold's got to get here soon. Someone, get Kevin Mawai here in his Hall of Fame jacket. So the Jets need help on this offensive line. So I think that's going to be scary. I don't know why. I think they're going to win. I think Zach's going to get it together. It's going to be a slop fest. It's going to be ugly. But O'Connell is not very mobile. So I think they're going to get after O'Connell. I think the Jets will have 5 or 6 sacks of their own. It's going to be one of those typical ugly Jets wins, comes down to like a turnover that they could not pick up last week. And I'm not going to blame the defense. They were fantastic. But 3 fumbles, 0 recoveries. I think they're going to get a ball or 2 to go their way. It's going to be something like a 20-17 or 13-10, something sloppy and ugly. Maybe not that. Hopefully not that.
Hopefully.
Some points. But I don't know why. Maybe it's a homer in me. Okay. But I still think the Raiders, don't have the same talent level as the Jets, and I think they scratch out a victory.
Random nugget before we end. You mentioned the Billy Turner thing. So, Sal mentioned that's a concerning injury. Rappaport reports it's a broken bone in his hand. will that be with all due respect, and by the way, again, as soon as you say that, you can then say whatever you want. That dems the rules, of course. But with all due respect, I mean, could it be a net positive? I mean, Billy Turner was a freaking, as fans were calling him on Twitter, Billy Turnstile was happening there, was getting slapped around in that Chargers game. Him off the field. I mean, you can't get much worse than what you were getting from Billy Turner in the Chargers game, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly going to hurt them, but now they're going to have to go deeper into the depth chart and get like an Xavier Newman or someone to play out of position. I'd like to see Saffold. Like I know he hasn't been great the last few, but let's see what he's got. At least in some ways, he has fresh legs in terms of, he hasn't played this year, so he doesn't have the wear and tear that these other guys have. Maybe that's a bad thing because he doesn't have any reps. But I'd like to see him out there. I mean, it can't get that much worse. So that's my only worry is here. It's another injury. It's another guy down the depth chart. And that they's guys, they're walking wounded, and they got to find a way to block for Zach, and they got to find a way to open up holes because, I don't think this is on Brees Hall. I just don't think there's any holes. He's trying to find a hole. And then when he does finally break one or on a screen or something, which the Jets have to do more screen passes. I mean, every drive they should have a screen because that's an automatic, let's see what you got in Brees Hall. And they haven't done that enough. But it seems like every time they do that, there's a hold, an illegal block in the back, an illegal man downfield. They're doing everything illegal on offense. Can we do something legal offensively? It might be a net positive. But again, it's another guy down the depth chart. You got to go dig deep in.
Fair enough. That's a good point. Again, we'll see on Dwayne Brown. Salah seems somewhat less optimistic about that, and Saffold apparently has to get into football shape, so that doesn't sound good either, but we'll see what happens there. We'll end on this super chat coming in. We'll never go anywhere with the Teletubby and Mr. Clean as the leadership. Wow, what a proper mic drop there from Vladdy P. Appreciate that, pal. Phenomenal. Well, Jake Brown, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. We appreciate you, my man, and we'll have to do this again in the future, hopefully after a Jets win. That'd be nice.
I don't know if he was referring to me when he said Teletubby and Mr. Clean, because I have been called Mr. Clean, and I am a little bit chubby. So I guess he might have meant me in leadership, which is fine. I'll take it. I've been called worse than Teletubby, and Mr. Clean's actually pretty cool. I wish I could get a little brand endorsement with them. But thank you for having me on. We're going to do a little crossover. I'm going to have you on Gangs All Here as well. So
yes, sir.
It'll be a little Boy Green meets the Podfather. And, let's get a W this week and, get back in that conversation. Appreciate you having me. I love your energy, and glad I did not have to do any karate on this show because those days I struggled breaking those boards in first, second grade. So I'm glad you spared me of whatever the lowest belt on the totem pole was.
Of course. You're welcome. My gift from me to you. That's how we do it here. But beautiful. Long overdue to get you on the show. So I'm glad we did it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Boy Green Daily. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Antoine's Daily of the New York Daily News will be popping on as well. That'll be great. Tomorrow morning live at 7:30. Thanks, everybody, and take care.